Before I start this video, I just want to clarify a few things. Number one, this is basically from my childhood experience, and number two, that if you agree with this video, great. If you don't, well, please respect what I think is best, and I just want to throw that in. So anyway, enjoy the video. Of my Saturday morning lineup rant video, I thought I would do a tribute or a discussion on my childhood on one of my favorite Saturday morning blocks. Well, from past to present, I will tell you, as you can see, my childhood was basically Kids WB. There were some people who grew up with Fox Kids or Disney one Saturday morning or whatever NBC had back in the 90s, probably the teen block, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was also CBS that had CBS Kids, which later became Nick Jr. on CBS and stuff like that. But Kids WB was where it was at, in my opinion. I remember lots of shows. Now, the one that really sticks out to me the most, if you remember my top 5 video, obviously Pokemon is number 1. When they took Pokemon off their scheduling, I actually thought Kids WB pretty much kicked the bucket by that point. And, yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about that. But it wasn't Kids WB's fault. It was the people who owned Pokemon that decided to give up the licensing to another company. Personally, I think 4Kids Entertainment should have kept it until they had to give it up for Diamond and Pearl. I know they didn't have a choice, but I think it would have been better that way. But that's just my opinion. Other than that, other shows I enjoyed on Kids WB were, well, I have several others. Let's see, Men in Black, Jackie Chan Adventures, Card Captors, that's another good one. Tom and Jerry Tales was also good. Scooby-Doo, all the Scooby-Doo series basically. What's New Scooby-Doo? Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, which Super Mudkip 95 showed me a clip of it recently, and it was actually pretty good. And several others. I'll probably do a separate video on Kids WB's lineup that I enjoyed from past until the channel was defunct. I also enjoyed watching Skunk Fu, but I didn't watch it on Kids WB when it was new. I actually watched it on Cartoon Network and when Kids WB rebranded into the CW4Kids. And that's what Kids WB became. Now, the advertisement that I saw for them rebranding to that was when I was watching an episode of, I think it was either Sonic X or Dinosaur King on 4Kids TV On Demand. Basically, the announcer said, Kids WB is the CW4Kids. Something like that. I could try recreating that, but it would have to be with me doing the narration. So if you want me to do that, I could at least try to attempt that advertisement. But it's not going to be perfect, but hey, something's better than nothing. In 2008, Kids WB rebranded into the CW4Kids. And also before that, the WB rebranded into either My Network Television or the CW, depending on where you're at. My local WB station back where I grew up became My Q2. It was Seattle's WB, which rebranded to My Q2. Now they're called Joe TV. And KSTW, which was a UPN station, it was also CBS for a while, is currently the CW11. And all the Kids WB programming announced they were moving to CW11. Then, in 2008, they announced that Kids WB rebrand into the CW4Kids. For the rebrand, most Kids WB fans were not too thrilled about it. They had to change the name because, obviously, the WB is no longer existent. They kept the Kids WB programming for most of the shows, so Will and Do It, Skunk Fu, Tom and Jerry Tales, and several others also stayed on there. I think Eon Kids stayed there as well. But when fall of 2008 came in, they went through another rebrand. They abandoned the comic book bumpers and idents when they started the fall premiere in 2008. They also abandoned the personality idents. I mean, it would look weird if they used the CW4Kids logo with the personality idents, to be honest. It was much more creative with the Kids WB logo. Now, let's talk about the CW4Kids programming. Now, I don't know if many people know this, but back in fall of 2008, Gokoriki did not start until a couple of weeks later. Before that, the lineup was basically 7 o'clock with Will and Do It. That was still there until Gokoriki announced they were going to be a full hour, which was in 2009. Then after that, I think it was the Littles that came on at 7:30. Before Gokoriki came on the block, they had a show before Skunk Fu and after Will and Do It. I don't remember what it was, but it was, I think it was the Littles, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I'm right. Then Skunk Fu came on at 8. Viva Pinata came on at 8:30. The Spectacular Spider-Man was 9 o'clock. TMNT Back to the Sewer was 9:30. Dinosaur King moved from 4Kids TV to the CW4Kids and was on at 10 o'clock. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds premiered, which came on after it at 10:30. Then you got a full hour of Chaotic at 11 till noon. In some points in the same month, or the beginning of October, they took off the Littles and replaced it with Gokoriki. Basically, Skunk Fu and Viva Pinata got to air 30 minutes earlier than they originally did. Skunk Fu was moved over to 7:30, and Viva Pinata moved to 8 o'clock. And Gokoriki took the 8:30 time slot. And everything else stayed the same. Then, basically, they yanked off Skunk Fu and Viva Pinata for a full hour of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2003 incarnation that aired on the Fox box. I don't know whose idea was it to take off Skunk Fu and Viva Pinata, but they should have been fired. I'm kidding. Maybe they did it for better or worse. I don't know. Then, in 2009, actually before that, they changed the time slots for Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Chaotic. No, I think Chaotic stayed at the same time slot. They changed the time slots for Dinosaur King, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and they made the Spectacular Spider-Man a full hour instead of just a 30-minute, well, one episode per week. In 2009, they announced 3 shows were coming, but only 2 of them got to premiere in January. The third one didn't premiere until fall of 2009. What ended up happening is the 4Kids TV block on Fox or My Network stations shut down. Basically, they announced 2 of their shows on that block were moving to the CW4Kids network. The 2 shows were Sonic X and Chaotic Marillion Invasion. In fact, I still remember the schedule for 2009 very well. Will and Do It still was on at 7 in the morning. Spectacular Spider-Man moved to 7:30, which was later replaced with another episode of Chaotic Marillion Invasion in February. Sonic X stayed at 8 o'clock. 8:30 was Gokoriki. 9 o'clock was Dinosaur King, if I remember correctly. And then TMNT Back to the Sewer was on at 9:30. Then Chaotic Marillion Invasion was on at 10 o'clock. Then Huntic Secrets and Seekers was 10:30. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds was 11, and 11:30 was Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. The 2 shows that premiered in January were Huntic Secrets and Seekers and Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. The third show, which was Rollbots, did not premiere until fall of 2009. I'm not going to go through the whole scheduling on what shows aired when. I was just letting you know that I remember that very well. In 2000, well, I will mention in fall to winter of 2009, they yanked off Gokoriki, which I was okay with. They replaced it with Magical Do-Re-Mi and The Winx Club, which I didn't watch on the CW4Kids. I did watch on 4Kids TV and the Fox box back when they were on those stations. I kind of wish Mew Mew Power was part of that list, but to be fair, they had licensing problems, so I blame TV Tokyo for that. Then they basically rebranded the CW4Kids into something that I don't approve of. Before I get into that, I prefer the CW4Kids when they had the You're Signed On bumpers, and the ones that were used for 4Kids TV, the game station, which were reused for the CW4Kids. I kind of wish 4Kids TV was still around, even though they had problems with viewers and stuff, but what can you expect? The CW4Kids eventually became Toons. And let me just say, when it comes to Toons, I'm sorry to say, I actually hate Toons more than I hate just the plain old CW4Kids. It's not that I hate their programming, it's just they got rid of the cool bumpers and stuff, and some of their good shows were actually yanked off the schedule. I know I did like the fall preview hosted by Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, when he was voiced by Jason Griffith and not Roger Craig Smith, because obviously Jason did the voicing for Sonic and Sonic X. Roger Craig Smith didn't come into the picture until Colors, but that's a completely different story. They also announced that Dragon Ball Z Kai was going to air on the block. I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but I actually don't care for Dragon Ball Z Kai or Dragon Ball Z in complete detail or at all. I don't care for Dragon Ball at all, I'm sorry to say. I was more of a Sailor Moon person. But if you liked Dragon Ball Z Kai, well, good for you. If you don't, that's also fine. They also had other programmings. Magi Nation, which was a Kids WB show before it rebranded to CW4Kids, got added to the scheduling. Cubix Robots for Everyone was added to the programming, which used to air on Kids WB and the Fox Box, although I had more fond memories watching on the Fox Box than I did with Kids WB. Then there was also a few other shows. I know Sonic X was on that list because people loved watching that show. Now, for a short while, the CW4Kids, before it became Toons, did air Kirby Right Back At Ya, but they didn't keep it on their scheduling for long, which I'm kind of mad they didn't, because it's one option they should have kept. They yanked Dinosaur King off of Toons at some point, which really made me mad because I was a huge fan of that show. And they added Tai Chi Chasers, which I wish someone would actually finish the English dub of the series, because I'm having trouble finding the original Chinese dub, so if you can find it for me, that would be great. They also had Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexals, which replaced 5Ds on Toons. I still prefer 5Ds over any other generation of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but that's just my opinion. They also had other shows. I don't remember what Toons had, but it's been a while since I've seen Toons, so I can't really answer. The only shows I mostly remember watching on Toons were basically Dragon Ball Z Kai, Sonic X, Tai Chi Chasers, and Magi Nation, and that was about it. Then they took Tai Chi Chasers off their scheduling, and that was right around the point that Toons became Vortexx on the CW. Vortexx on the CW is really Fox Kids in disguise because it was owned by Saban. Now, I actually like Vortexx, but if they were going to bring back Vortexx, please don't get mad at me for saying this, but I think Vortexx should be on Fox and my network stations. I want the CW to relaunch the CW4Kids under a different company. They can use the trademark name, they just have to be owned by a different company. But Vortexx is more of a Fox Kids sort of programming, but if they were to be on the CW, that's fine. So, Vortexx had shows like Rescue Heroes, The Adventures of Chuck and Friends, which airs on Discovery Family these days. They also aired a few other programming, including WWE Super Morning Slam, which was mediocre, to be honest. I'm not that big into wrestling. And eventually Sonic X was added on the program by popular demand. Then a few other shows. Digimon Fusion also made it onto the Vortex block, and but by that point they announced that Vortex was going to become One Magnificent Morning. Let me just say, I hate One Magnificent Morning. I really do. I would rather have Vortex or the CW4Kids back on the CW block. I think One Magnificent Morning should shut down. That's why I actually prefer the CW4Kids, mainly because they had most of my favorite shows on the block. Not just Sonic X, but Dinosaur King, Kirby Right Back At Ya, even though that was only for a few episodes. Tai Chi Chasers, which needs to be finished in English, because finding episodes in the original dub is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. And a few other shows, maybe some Kids WB programming. If I were to launch a block on the CW, I'll probably make a video on what programming I would select, and see if you people would agree with me. That's all I have to say for this video. Thanks for watching.